Good morning, students. It's time for another lesson. Now, this one I am very excited about to begin this unit because it is on statistics, which, as some of you know, is my favorite part of math. I also teach AP statistics. So I've been looking forward to this unit all year, and I'm very excited to get into talking with you guys about statistics and how we use them. So today we're going to be working on what are called measures of central tendency. That is a very, very fancy phrase for things that you've definitely already heard of, at least some of them. And those things are mean, median, mode, range, and outliers, but especially mean, median, and mode. Now, you've probably heard of those at some point, but today's lesson is going to be a little bit of a refresher on those, and it should come to you very quickly. So before we begin, pause the video and see if you can kind of articulate in your head what you remember about mean, median, mode, and especially extra if you can remember anything about range and outliers. Okay, so when talking about mean, median, mode, the first thing that you need to know is that they're a way for us to describe data. Now, data is simply just information. And in math, that data is normally numbers in some way, some sort of information measuring something, right? And so in this case, we are measuring things of numeric value, and we use mean, median, and mode to describe a summary of that data, basically to get a quick snapshot of it. If you were looking at a huge spreadsheet of information, you couldn't really just glance at that spreadsheet really fast and know what that data is telling you, right? Because no one can read that fast. However, if you were given the mean of that data, let's say we're looking at test scores, like I do, and I look at your grades. I can't just look at a spreadsheet of all of your grades with, and in 2 seconds know the nature of how you guys are doing. However, if I have the mean, which is the average, of your grades, and I know that it's maybe an 85, I know that that's the average score. So we use these measures of central tendency, these statistics, to basically describe data quickly and thoroughly in a way that helps us process the information. So what I have right here is sample data. Basically, I made up some numbers, but suppose that these numbers here tell us about mile times. Let's say there's a race. There was a track meet, and they ran the mile. And I'm a runner, so I think about these kind of things. So we have information that there was a 7 minute, so this is in minutes, 7-minute mile, 8.5-minute mile, 7.5 minutes, 9 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and 6 minutes. So we're going to say those are, that's our data right there. Now looking at that immediately, if I were to say, all right, what does that data tell me? Well, I don't know. It tells me mile times, but I don't know what it tells me about the group of runners off the top of my head. But I could use these statistics to quickly describe this data. So the first one we're going to talk about is the mean. The mean is the average. Now, you've probably heard this before. At least you most likely have. Now I'm going to open up my calculator in my computer. You should have at some point. Mean is average. And what that means is it's basically, it is what it sounds like. We use the word average all the time in our regular language. It's regular, right? It's kind of the middle-ish, but not the middle. It's basically a way to quickly describe the entire spread of the data. And the way we do that, the way we find the mean or the average, is we add up all the values in the data set and we divide that number by the amount of observations. Or in this case, we have mile times for individual people that ran in a race. So we add up all the mile times and then we divide by the number of people that ran the race. So I have my calculator open on my computer, as you should as well. And we're going to add up 7, 8.5, 7.5, 9, 7, 10, and 6 for starters. So we have 7 plus 8.5 plus 7.5 plus 9 plus 7 plus 10, and then plus 6. That is 55. Now that does not tell us anything. But to find the average, you then take that sum and divide by the total number of observations, or the number of things you're looking at. In this case, we're looking at mile times. So how many specific mile times do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 mile times. So we take that 55 and we divide by 7. And 55 divided by 7 is 7.857. We're going to round to 7.86. And what that tells us is the average mile time in this race is 7.86 minutes for a mile, which is very fast. So you would use that to say the typical runner ran a mile in about 7.86. So that's the mean, that's the average. The next one is the median, and then we have the mode. And what's great about these two is they don't require any calculation. The mean requires calculation, but the median and mode just simply requires looking at the data. Now, for the median, it is saying what is, when you hear median, you should kind of hear that word middle. Kind of sounds like middles in there. I don't know, it reminds me of middle. And so the median is the middle value. Now, here's what's important. It's not just the middle value, however the numbers are ordered. You have to order the numbers from least to greatest and then find the middle. So we need to order these numbers first. So the fastest was 6. We had 7, 7.5. Oh, we had 2 people ran 7, so you have to list it twice. 7.5, 8.5, 9, and 10. So I just listed all the mile times from smallest to biggest, from least to greatest. And now you find the one in the middle. And the best way to do that is to knock off one from the front, then knock off one from the end, then knock off the second one from the front, then knock off the second one from the end until you get to one in the middle. So let's do that. 6 and 10 are gone, 7 and 9, 7 and 8.5, and you have 1 left, and that is 7.5. So the median, the middle value is 7.5. And what that tells you is what was the middle time ran, the person that finished right in the middle, right? Not the average time, but the person that finished right in the middle was 7.5. 7.5 minutes will be the median for mile times in this race. Now, a quick note. This is when there's an odd number of observations. You get this nice, easy number in the middle. If, for example, you had an even number of observations, if we had somebody else in here, so let's pretend there was another runner. So we had our 7.5. But let's pretend there was also somebody who ran 7.6. So we crossed out 6 and 10, 7 and 9, 7 and 8.5. But now we're left with 7.5 and 7.6. And if you cross both those out, we have nothing in the middle. So in order to find what the median is, whenever you have 2 values in the middle, you add those values up and you divide by 2. So if we were to do that, we do 7.5 plus 7.6 and divide by 2, that's 7.55. But in this case, that's actually not what was there. It's 7.5. Now, the mode is actually the easiest of all of these. You don't need to reorder. You don't need to do any calculations. You look and the mode, M-O-D-E, mode is asking you what is the most common value. Is there any value that happens more than once? Because, if you have a data set of 1,000 observations, you're probably going to have a lot of, if 1,000 people ran a mile, you'd have a lot of people run a mile in 8 minutes, right? Or whenever I give a test and, to 100 students, I have a lot of people get an A, right, or a B, you know. So the mode is saying what is the most common of the values, and in this case, let's see. The only value that is repeated is 7. 2 people ran a mile in 7 minutes. And that means that 7 is the mode, because it happened twice, and everything else only occurred once. So mean, median, mode. Mean is the average. You add up all the values and divide by the number of observations. Median is the value in the middle. You order from least to greatest, and you find the value in the middle. Mode is the most common. What happens more than once? If nothing repeats, if nothing happens more than once, then there is no mode. You don't do a calculation, you just say there's no mode. And what this data does is it tells us information very quickly. So, and if I were to look at this data just in the abstract without these values, and somebody said, hey, what was that mile race like? I'd say, oh, well, someone ran a minute in 7, someone ran it 8.5, someone ran it in 7.5. You know, you're not really doing anything constructive. But if I have these values, I could say, oh, well, the average time was 7.85 miles or minutes, and the person that finished in the middle, the median time was 7.5. But 2 people ran a mile in 7 minutes, so the mode was 7. And there you have more useful information. So this is going to be the end of part 1. There's going to be a quick part 2. It's very fast, but YouTube only lets me upload videos of a certain length. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to upload another video here in a minute. So click the next video. It'll be coming right up.